What if suffering isn't something to avoid, but something that can transform you? One philosopher spent his life wrestling with that question, and his ideas continue to influence psychology, counseling, and personal growth more than a century later. Today, we're talking about Friedrich Nietzsche. Now, Nietzsche wasn't a psychologist, and nor was he a counselor. He wasn't even trying to create a therapy model. He was a philosopher. But despite that, his ideas continue to show up in psychology, counseling, self-development, and conversations about what it means to live a meaningful life. Many people know Nietzsche because of a famous quote. Others know him because of some of his more controversial ideas. But what interests me the most is how deeply he thought about suffering, growth, resilience, authenticity, and human potential. And those are topics counselors talk about every single day. So while Nietzsche wasn't a counselor, I think he deserves a place in a series about people who shaped how we think about mental health and human growth. Hey, it's Daniel again from The Quiet Mind. One reason Nietzsche has always been important to me is because he completely changed the way I think about suffering. Like most people, I used to think the goal was to avoid pain whenever possible. And don't get me wrong, there are plenty of forms of suffering that we should try to reduce. If someone is struggling with depression, anxiety, trauma, addiction, or a difficult life situation, we want them to suffer less. But Nietzsche challenged a different assumption. He asked whether some forms of suffering might actually help shape us into stronger, wiser, and more resilient people. As a counselor, I've seen this over and over again. People often come to therapy feeling broken by something they've experienced. Then, over time, they discover strengths they never knew they had. They learn boundaries because they were hurt. They learn resilience because life knocked them down. They learn compassion because they've suffered themselves. Nietzsche helped me to see that growth and suffering are often connected in ways that we might not immediately recognize. What's interesting is that Nietzsche wasn't writing about suffering from a comfortable distance. He lived it. He struggled with chronic illness for much of his life. He dealt with severe headaches, physical pain, poor eyesight, isolation, and loneliness. Many of his relationships were difficult. His academic career didn't unfold the way he hoped. There were long periods where he physically and emotionally was struggling, and yet, instead of becoming consumed with bitterness, he became fascinated by a question. How do human beings transform hardship into strength? That question became one of the central themes of his philosophy. His ideas weren't born in comfort, they were forged in adversity. What doesn't kill me makes me stronger. This is probably Nietzsche's most famous quote. It's also one of the most misunderstood. Nietzsche was not saying that suffering is good. He wasn't saying trauma automatically helps people grow. He certainly wasn't saying people should seek out suffering. He was saying that hardship has the potential to transform us. Pain can teach us. Failure can teach us. And loss can teach us. Not because those experiences are pleasant, but because they often force us to develop strength we didn't need before. In counseling today, we sometimes talk about post-traumatic growth, the idea that some people develop greater resilience, wisdom, appreciation, or purpose after surviving difficult experiences. That's very different from saying that suffering is good, but it is similar to Nietzsche's belief that adversity can become a source of growth. One of Nietzsche's most powerful ideas was surprisingly simple. Become who you are. He believed many people spend their lives trying to fit into roles that were chosen for them by their family, culture, society, or other people's expectations. They live the life they were supposed to, not necessarily the life that reflects their deepest values. Nietzsche challenged people to figure out who they really are and then have the courage to live accordingly. That process isn't easy. It requires honesty, it requires self-reflection, and sometimes it requires disappointing other people. But Nietzsche believed authenticity is worth the cost. This idea shows up all the time in counseling, especially when people are trying to figure out who they are, what they value, and how they want to live. Another idea I appreciate about Nietzsche is his focus on responsibility. He believed life doesn't automatically hand us meaning. Meaning is something we create through our choices, through our actions, through our values, through the way we respond to challenges. Now, that does not mean that we're responsible for everything that happens to us. Bad things do happen and people get hurt. Life can certainly be unfair, but Nietzsche believed we still have responsibility for how we respond. That idea would later influence existential psychology and thinkers like Viktor Frankl. We can't always choose our circumstances, but we can choose our response. And sometimes that response becomes a source of meaning in itself. So why do counselors like myself still talk about Nietzsche today? Because many of the questions he explored are still the questions that people bring into therapy. How do I deal with suffering? How do I become an authentic version of myself? Where do I find meaning? How do I move forward after great loss? How do I become stronger without becoming bitter? You can see Nietzsche's influence in existential therapy, meaning-centered approaches, post-traumatic growth research, and even broader conversations about resilience and personal responsibility. Again, he wasn't a therapist, but he asked questions that therapists continue helping people answer today. Thanks for joining me in this look at Friedrich Nietzsche. If you want to keep learning about the people, ideas, and practical skills that shape mental health and personal growth, follow me, Daniel, with The Quiet Mind. We'll continue exploring psychology, counseling, philosophy, DBT skills, mindfulness, and ways to build a life worth living. I'll see you in the next one.